it comes into Dallas. And now everyone on Twitter is like, oh my God, Trey Lance is here to take Dak Prescott's job. Well, if that was the case, he was traded for a 4th round pick when the Minnesota Vikings are his home team, and pretty much the 49ers called every single team as soon as Sam Darnold beat him out. And they were like, hey, what will you give us for Trey Lance? And the Cowboys were like, all right, we're interested in the past. We'll give you a 4th round pick and maybe see what happens. And that's what this is right now, because Dak Prescott is someone who has been reliable, but not reliable in big games, where he's been able to keep you really steady, but he's also had some interception issues. And then you're like, all right, well, we have this massive contract. We probably don't want to pay him again. Can Trey Lance be ready in 2 years? We'll see. And if not, guess what? We gave up a 4th round pick for him, and we'll be able to let him walk out the door. So it's like the risk to reward is really what Dallas was going for. And it kind of shakes up the league. It puts some pressure on Dak Prescott to say Jerry Jones is not particularly happy that he moved on from Tony Romo for you. It's like Dak steps in, beats out Tony Romo, because Tony Romo's had injury issues each year. And then Dak has kind of never really broken through that ceiling where everyone is kind of just waiting for him to make that next step. Yeah. And he's just been kind of like, okay, we know what we're going to get from him. He's going to have some big games, going to turn the ball over. And he's really unproven so far without Ezekiel Elliott at his side.
Yeah, I think with Dak Prescott, to the Trey Lance point, I think that you play it out with Dak Prescott this year. Next year, you feel things out. But for Dak Prescott, it's somebody who maybe got a little too comfortable last year, was very turnover prone, made some really risky decisions, and ultimately cost his team a chance to beat the 49ers come playoff time. But for him, he needs a running game. He's somewhere in the realm of like a Kirk Cousins, right? He's in that tier, maybe at the top of that tier, but we expected him to kind of break through and become a top 10 quarterback. And some people would argue that he's a top 10 quarterback now. I would disagree. I'd put him, if he's top 10, he's number 10. Yeah. So definitely like middle of the pack quarterback. We've seen that from him for the last 5 years, just waiting for him to break through and reach that next tier. And he really hasn't to this point. And it's not the lack of weapons, the lack of talent around him that's prevented him from doing so. And to this point, he's kind of holding back the Cowboys. So for me, I look at his contract as the big thing for moving forward, taking someone like Trey Lance, who's a project, still has a lot of time to develop behind Dak Prescott. With Dak Prescott, I don't know how much time he has left in Dallas. I feel like 2 years is probably is the most we'll see with him.
Yeah.